אשרי האיש אשר הלך בצד רשעים, ובדרך חטאים לא עמד, ומושב לצים לא ישב, כי בתורת אדוני חפצו, ובתורתו יגע יומם ולילה. והיה כשתו על פלגי מים, אשר פריו ייתם ביתו, ועליהו לא ייבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא כן הרשעים, כי המוץ אשר תפתנו רוח, על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט, וחטאים בעדת צדיקים. כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים, ודרך רשעים תאבד. מזמור לדוד. אדוני מי יגור באוהליך, מי ישכון בהר קודשך. הולך תמים ופועל צדק, ודובר אמת בלבבו. לא רגל על לשונו, לא עשה לרעהו רע, וחרפה לא נשא על קרובו. נבזה בעיניו נמאס, ואת יראי אדוני יכבד. נשבע להרע ולא ימיר, כספו לא נתן בנשך, ושוחד נקי לא לקח. עושה אלה לא ימות לעולם. מזמור לדוד. אדוני רואי לא יחסר, בנודש ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת בשם ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Please join with me as we read Psalm 23 together. A song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in a full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days.
Thank you. Last night I went to the Haber family, to the Haber home. Anybody who knows this family, when you go to the house, you don't leave after 5 minutes. I was there for over 2 hours. And it was amazing. Obviously, Sylvia, the mother, the matriarch of the family was there. Ida and Irvin, their kids, Nathan and Yana, Ryan, Rina, the grandchildren, Ava and Ariana, who I see her every day in preschool. I met their Irvin's sister, the daughter Nancy, and her family. Dick I met today, didn't have a chance to meet them last night. And her children, Anne and her husband, David, and Laura was there. Richard and Jackie I just met today. And then Grant and Max And Sebastian, the grandchild, that's a new name I learned today. Took a while, but I had to make some connection to a Hebrew word, and then I was able to remember the name. There is Sambatian, but it's a whole different story. And what I saw there, and I met the uncle, Gil, and his wife, Lenore. I hope I didn't miss anybody, and if I miss, I'm asking for forgiveness. I met Laura's fiance, Drew. Anybody else? Okay, thank God. Whoa. And what I want to tell you, what I felt there, I felt that the Shekhinah was in this house. God's presence, the divine presence was there. How I know the divine presence was there? Because there was a house full of love. And where is God? Where there is love. We're reading now in the Torah about building the temple. In top of the Ark of the Covenant with the two tablets there were two cherubs made out of gold, faces of a boy and a girl. And when the faces looked at each other, we knew that God loves the Jewish people. And the voice of God came out from between the two cherubs. Above the ark is not good enough with the two tablets. You need love, and only from within love comes out the word of God. And I was thinking, where comes so much love in this family? I was thinking it's coming from the patriarch of the family, from Larry, that we are now coming to say goodbye to him. I met him once or twice, but yesterday I really learned about him. He was full of love, and he gave it to everybody around him. His Hebrew name is Label. Label Lab means a lion. He was a big man, he was a lion. But together with that label means Lev. Lev means heart. He had a gold heart, he had a big heart. And this love that came from his heart projected. He was born 84 years ago in the Bronx in New York, to his parents who loved them very much. How I know that his parents loved them so much? Because the grandchildren told me that when he used to go to visit his mother's grave, he used to stand there and cry. A man who was 80 years old should cry in his mother's grave. That's an unusual thing. I didn't see it too often, or I don't remember ever. And he used to speak how much his mother loved him and what she did for him. That you know that he had an amazing relationship with his parents. A loving relationship. He was born as the oldest of 3 boys, and he was the leader of the family. He has his brother Gil, who is here with us, and another younger brother Stuart, that is sick, and we all wish him and pray for him. He should have a speedy recovery. We couldn't be here today. But these 3 brothers were constantly like one unit, always united, always coming together and spending time together. As Lenore said, Gil's wife told me yesterday, she used to see them always, the 3 brothers, laughing. She couldn't understand what they're laughing about, but they were always laughing. She used to ask him, what are you laughing about? She said, we don't know why, we're just laughing. And one of the grandchildren, I think it was Max, told me yesterday, he was once in Israel with his grandfather, and his grandfather was making a joke, but it was not funny, nobody was laughing. But he thought it was funny. He started to laugh, and everybody was laughing after him. He had a contagious laugh. And because of him, I think that was the reason why with the brothers. He started laughing. They were all with him. And as the nephews told me, that he was the excitement of the family. He was the life of the party everywhere. He grew up in New York. When he was in the army, that was the time when he met the love of his life. Sylvia, she met him, she told me she met him in the temple. But they didn't go to pray together there. It was something like, I forgot the name of the organization. Basically, it was the girls used to go to entertain the soldiers. That was the job. But you were not allowed to meet, to date the soldiers. But he asked her out, that she went to ask the lady who was in charge of the whole program if he can take her home. And the lady said, because you asked permission, therefore you can do it. He took her home, and on the way, they stopped by in a bar. And that was the beginning of over 6 decades of love. An amazing love. As everybody in the family told me that it was not just in love, it was beyond love. It was an unbelievable relationship that inspired the whole family. It doesn't mean that they never argued. They actually enjoyed arguing. He enjoyed arguing. And enjoyed to aggravate her. And then he used to look on the children and the grandchildren and make with his eye like I said, look what I do to her. But the love was an unbelievable fear that was going on in the family. And then they got married. Erwin was born. A very dear Erwin, as we all love him so much. And then they had a girl that was born, Marla. She was born sick. She lived only for 7 months. Then she passed away. Larry was very sad, as well as Sylvia. But then 2 years later, Nancy was born. And as he said that when Nancy came, when he brought the baby home, it was the whole block was partying. And he knew how to party. And when he says the whole block was partying, it was a big, big party. And they raised their children in New York until the age of 10 or so. And then they moved to Cleveland. He was in the business of furniture. So he sold furniture, then he was a sales rep. And he got a job in Cleveland, and they moved to Cleveland. And there they raised the 2 children. What they told me is that for the parents, education was number one. Nancy said that she wanted after high school to become a hairdresser. Your father told her, you're going to college. Later you can do whatever you want, but you have to go to finish college. And therefore she says she's thanking him until today because she became a nurse because of this. And married a doctor, a surgeon. That's even better. Erwin also obviously finished college, and he said he used to go, every time his father used to call, he used to say he's in the library. But it was not always the library. I think it was a bar, and it was called the library. Then whenever they said he's in the library, they didn't lie. Sometimes he was really in the library, sometimes he was in a different library. I think they should open a bar with the name like synagogue or temple. Where is this? Going to synagogue? We became so religious. It's a new idea, maybe. Later in his life, he moved. I think for 20 years he lived in Cleveland. And later he moved to Florida. And he moved to Florida before one of the big hurricanes, and right before that, and he had a lot of furniture to sell later. He was very busy. But the most important thing in his life was not his business, was his family. That was the love of his life. He was constantly busy with his children. He used to call them and visit them and talk to them. He didn't say, as Ida told me yesterday, he didn't say, when people with the kids or the grandchildren or the daughter-in-law and son-in-law used to tell him, I love you, he never answered, I love you. I love you too. This generation didn't say so much, I love you, like today everybody runs around and says the whole day, I love you, I love you, I love you. They really love them. And it was, love is measured by action, as they say on Fiddler on the Roof. What is love? But it was just not his thing. But Ida said she called him a few weeks ago to wish him, to congratulate him for his birthday. And that time he said, I love you too. Took a while to train him to say I love you, but eventually you got it. He used to call every week to Erwin, Friday, 3 o'clock, and asking him, how is business? How's your family? That was like a half-a-minute conversation. And then it was, how is business? How many sales you made? What's going on? There is ups, there is down. Everything he needed to know about the business. And Nancy told me used to call Dick and tell him the same thing. No, he's a surgeon. How many surgeries you had this week? Oh, only 3. You're low this week. What's going on? To provide a few more sick people to. And with the grandchildren too, he was very involved and they loved them very much. What they say was a role model for them. A role model in love. in accepting people. Nancy, when she married Dick, he brought with him 3 children. She adopted them. And he accepted them like they're his own children. And the children told me yesterday, I was so impressed. I saw the love for these grandchildren to the grandfather. They said it was what they didn't get from any biological grandparents they got from him. He treated them just like he treated Irvin's kids. He treated them with love and care, and they felt like the real grandchildren. And they saw from him how much he's accepting every person. He was not a perfect person, and he never expected from anybody else to be perfect. He accepted you as you are, and that was so special about him. In life, he liked to go to the casinos to gamble and do these kind of things. He was, as Irvin told me, he's a simple person. He didn't need much. They didn't go on vacations. He says he remembers maybe once they went as a whole family on vacation when they were young. Later, the kids took them on vacations. That's smarter. You wait, then your kids should take you on vacations. What is this business of you taking them? But he ate what he enjoyed to eat. He said, how much can you eat? And he always liked to say, it is what it is. That's what life. He accepted what is happening in his life. He was the role model, what to do and what not to do. On one hand, he was so much in love with his wife that the whole family, especially the female side of the family, said that he was a role model for them to learn what means a good marriage, what means love. But the grandchildren also told me he's a role model for them what not to do, not to smoke, not to eat not healthy food, and all of this kind of thing, to take care of your health. But in every way or shape or form, I think the most important thing about him was that he was accepting every person for whatever it is, for whoever he is or she is, and welcoming and loving, and it was like this until the last day of his life. Even his nephews have amazing stories to tell about him. He was, many years ago, he was bringing to the nephews a present, a pencil sharpener. And the kids loved it so much that they used to sharpen pencils day and night. Lenore said she remembers her children in the middle of the night hearing them zooming the pencils one after the other. I must say, when I was a child, I enjoyed it too. It's really a lot of fun. And forever, he used to ask them, even lately, he used to ask him, how is the pencil sharpener? What's going on with that? And they said, the nephew said that he was always so generous, taking care of them, taking them to the casinos, giving them money to gamble, having fun. He was the glue of the whole family, having fun. And that's what the most important thing we can learn, we can take from him, is that a person who loves life, he loves people. And the last 9 months, last year, they moved them back from Florida to Philadelphia, where Nancy lives, because when you have a daughter a nurse and a son-in-law a doctor, it couldn't be a better setting. He was there the last year. This was the time for them to give him back so much love. It's not they didn't give him love before that, but that was even more. I mean, he used to come every time, he used to come to Cleveland, he used to sit in Irvin's office a whole day. Obviously, he couldn't do much work there when he was there all day, but the last year, the kids took care of the father. And he, as Ida told me, he mellowed down. He was much more loving and much more expressing his love. And his wife, Sylvia, was with him for day and night, every day, 7 days a week for 12 hours or more. And whenever somebody else used to come in, she used to tell her, take her home, take her home. But then when she wants to leave, he said, where are you going? I want you here. That was another way of continuing to teasing her. Until the last day, in the last moment, there were children with him, grandchildren with him. What a legacy of love. May the love of your father, grandfather, great-grandfather should continue for many years to come. תהי נשמתו צרורה בצרור החיים. And now we hear from Nathan, from his grandson, Nathan Haber, and then from Anne Frankel, the granddaughter.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'll try to get through this as best as I can. Papa was a man who loved his family and was so proud of my father, so proud of my aunt for the lives that they created, the lives that they've built. Just was in awe with all the grandchildren and ultimately great-grandchildren, and you could just tell he absolutely loved being around the family. You know, he always wanted Dad to be a doctor, and you know, that was his dream. Dad had a different plan, and you know, started getting into business, and the more entrepreneurial he got, and once he took PDI, I don't think Papa was ever happier. So he loved the business, and he came absolutely enthralled with PDI. And as the rabbi mentioned, he would call every Friday at 3 o'clock, what's going on? How are we doing? How are we doing? What's the head count? What are our labor hours? How much is going out this month? What kind of new orders came in? You know, just always taking a tab on the company literally every single week. He would sit in my father's office when he'd come into town and you know, spend a whole day there reading the Plain Dealer. Go figure. He just absolutely loved sitting in the desk because I think he felt, hey, if I'm sitting here, I have some impact on this place. So he absolutely was enthralled, like I said. And, of course, loved my wife and kids. And always wanted to kiss, excuse me. Always wanted kisses from our girls. He had a really crude sense of humor. But as they said, he was always laughing. He would always make us laugh. And even if it wasn't funny, he'd start laughing. He'd probably cough a few times. You'd start laughing with him. Most of the jokes, like I said, were crude. Couldn't never repeat them here. But just to give you an idea of his humor, you know, I'm working long nights, going through law school several years back, and I would talk to him every once in a while because he lived in Florida, we lived in Cleveland. And he kept motivating me. He says, you know, if you continue and you pass the bar, you're going to ultimately be able to one day be the vice president of urinals at PDI. So, you know, that's what his goal was for me, I guess, vice president of urinals. Hopefully I surpassed that at this point. I always enjoyed our talks over cigars and whiskey, talking about the stock market or business or sports. He absolutely loved sports. Although we did become pretty bitter rivals when LeBron went from Cleveland to Miami. It was a weird thing. You know, Papa had thick skin. But as the rabbi touched on, he became more emotionally transparent in his later years, the last several years of his life. The first time I saw this is when Yana and I told him that we were giving Ariana a Hebrew name to be named after his mother, Grandma Faye. And so this was, you know, give or take 5 years ago. Ariana was born, and we had the day of her baby naming. He cried like a baby, came up and thanked us profusely. That was the first time I think I had ever really seen him show emotion. And then the last 2 years, he started saying, I love you, when he was talking to us. It was, you know, the first time I remember hanging up the phone with him, and he said, I love you, as we were hanging up. I was like, you know, he's either more drunk than he's ever been or on some really good drugs. It was astonishing. But, you know, they do say that when life strikes at you hard, you know, and you realize that your own mortality is near, you become who you truly are. And that's who he became. He became the openly emotional person that we always had hoped that he would be. I'm almost done. Man, I've gotten so much softer since I've had these kids. It's just, it's crazy. So on behalf, Papa, on behalf of Ryan, Rena, Yana, and myself, we want to say thank you for everything that you did for us and the entire family. And even though we live far apart, the distance in our hearts was always so very close. We will miss you greatly.
You know, last night I said to Nathan, I want to go last so that you guys can, break it in for me. But maybe it's not best to go last because it's some tough acts to follow. For those of you that don't know, I'm Annie. I'm Nancy's oldest daughter, and this is Laura and Richard. Richard's wife Jackie, Laura's fiance Drew, my husband David, Max and Grant. Well out of order. My grandfather was unwell for quite some time. I think we can all agree he was batting a lot of extra innings. And you think about what you're going to say on a day like this, and then it never really comes together. So as much as I tried to write something, just never fit. And all the things I thought about him were just not appropriate for today. So bear with me because I jotted down a few notes, and we're just going to go with it. So I appreciate your patience. So I reached out to my siblings and my husband and my parents, and I said, tell me some things you remember about Papa. And as I said, none of the stories were appropriate for today. He had a crude sense of humor. He loved a dirty joke, and he would tell it at the most inappropriate times. And then he'd laugh so loudly that you couldn't help but laugh at him. And he appreciated a good-looking woman. And he'd always, if one walked by, he'd wink at my brothers, quite obviously, and embarrass them. He loved his booze. He loved his cigarettes. I think it preserved him well past when it was expected to. But beyond all that, he was such a kind man. And he was difficult. But he was so kind that it made up for it. And as the rabbi said, my dad brought myself, Richard, and Laura into his marriage with my mom. And we had some family that were really unkind to us, biological family. And my grandfather just didn't care. He told my grandmother she loves him, and so she loved us. And that was enough for him. And he never really talked about it. He just did what was the right thing to do. And he loved us as if we were his own. And when I was a kid, we'd go to Florida. Sometimes I went, sometimes my sister came with me for a week. And we'd go to the flea markets with my grandmother. And, you know, my grandmother would shower us with affection and love. And then we'd sit on the couch and watch the ticker with my grandfather and eat fresh cut up fruit. And then he'd take us out to DeSalvo's where he would pester the waitresses endlessly. Or the Chinese restaurant where he'd eat too much hot mustard and he'd head into a coughing fit. And it may not have seemed like much to anybody, but for me it was amazing because he chose to love us, and that was such a beautiful thing. And he was so in love with all of his grandchildren, and it was so obvious to me because he wanted to spend time with us. When he came, he'd say, "Sit with me." You'd be like, "Hey, Papa," like, sit with me, scratch me, be with me. And you think you have so many better things to do. And then you find out he's not well and all you want to do is be with him. But you can't because you got a job and you have a kid. And you try to be there as much as possible. I'm totally off script, by the way. One of the other greatest gifts he gave us was the love he had for my grandmother. And he annoyed the bejesus out of her. And she would say, Larry, stop it. Larry this, Larry that. And then you'd hear Sylvia. He'd call her Haber, which I thought was the cutest thing. Mrs. Haber, come scratch me, bring me fruit. and she did it all because she was so in love with him. And they were so in love with one another. And you don't see that. And it was a wonderful example for all of us. A couple years ago, they came into Philadelphia, and they went to New York to make the round of the gravestones of the family. And I remember they came back, and he was sitting in our living room, and he began to cry. And I said to him, Pop, like, why are you crying? These people have been dead for years, you know? And he was crying about Marla, the baby that they lost. And he said, it was such a hard time for us. And I think then I really realized as I was getting married how hard it must have been for them. But I think the true testament, the love that they had for one another and the love they had for my Uncle Erwin, they went on to get pregnant with my mom, and I just can't even imagine what a leap of faith that took. When he came to Philadelphia about 9 months ago, he was really sick, and we brought him up because we really thought it was the end. We thought we didn't have 9 months. We thought we had 9 days. And we brought him up, and it was scary. It was really bad. And then a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and you'd walk into the room, and he'd be like, hi. And you're like, Papa, really? Like, hi? And he was just doing so well because he really relished in seeing his grandchildren and seeing his children and seeing the great-grandchildren. There were a lot of trips in for the great-grandchildren, and fortunately, my son Sebastian was at the daycare just down the street, so he saw him a lot. And that was one of the greatest gifts ever. And Sebastian probably won't remember it, but we all do. And his face would light up whenever that baby came in the room. And he loved him. And he would say, put him on my stomach. Bring him here. I want to kiss him. Since he was a little tiny baby. And it was such a beautiful thing to see him really open up his life. We don't all have that opportunity to really be with the ones that we love and appreciate those last moments the way that he did. And it was beautiful that we got to do it with him, and that he knew that was the time that he had left. My sister found a wonderful quote. She always does. And it's a Maya Angelou quote, like it always is. She said one at my wedding. And for those of you that were at my wedding, it was a really good speech. She probably should have spoken today. She would have written it in the limo, and it would have been a lot better. The quote is, I've learned that people will forget what you say. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And I will never forget how my grandfather made me feel. Thank you.
Please rise for the memorial service.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירין את נשמת ליבו בן יוסף שהלך לעולמו בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים בעד אזכרת נשמתו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו לכן פן הרע יסתירהו בסדק כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור לחיים ונשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו. וינוח בשלום על משכבו. ונאמר Amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose of the shelter and wings of your presence in the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine in the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Laban ben Yosef, who is gone to his world, and for whose memory we will pray. May his repose be in the paradise. May the Master of compassion bring him under the cover of God's wings and bind his soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be his heritage, and may his repose on his resting place be in peace. And let us respond, Amen.
Please be seated. Service will continue at Mount Olive Cemetery, and then the family will sit Shiva at Irvin Ryder Haber's house on 6471 South Huntington Drive in Solon. Immediately today and after the funeral until 5 o'clock, Saturday night 7 to 9, Sunday to Wednesday 2 to 5 and 7 to 9. 7 o'clock at night we'll have a minyan for Mariv from Sunday to Wednesday.